Hey, what's up there, everybody? My name is Thavius Beck, and in the following tutorial course, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite little black boxes, Elektron Analog Heat. This is a distortion device, but it's capable of a lot more than just that. In fact, it's one of the most flexible sound sculpting devices that I have in my arsenal. It has a fully analog signal path, and we can use this with hardware, or we can use this along with Overbridge as a VST in our DAW and get access to all that great analog goodness. So I'm going to show you some of my own personal tips and techniques, and hopefully you get something good out of the course. Let's get started. In the following course, we're going to be discussing how to use analog heat with a DAW. In this case, we'll be using it with Ableton Live. Now, we have the ability to use analog heat as a standalone device and use it just to add some analog warmth and distortion to hardware. But the beauty of this is that we can also use it alongside a DAW, and with Overbridge properly installed, we can bring this up as a VST and control all the parameters of analog heat within the DAW that we're using. So let's make sure that we have the most current version of Overbridge downloaded, and we want to make sure that the analog heat has the appropriate firmware to use that most recent OS. Once we do that, we can see over here on the right side. If you don't happen to see this, you can just hit this gear at the top, and that'll expose the settings. We have the Overbridge engine settings. So essentially you want to make sure that you choose a buffer size that's going to give you a good amount of performance without too much latency. Right now I have this set for 256, which is fine for me. We can also make it so that the user interface is a bit bigger if you need to. And you have a few other options here as far as changing the color theme and enabling tooltips if you need them. So once this is all set up, we can close Overbridge. And I have a set here in Ableton Live that I've been playing around with. But before I get to that, I want to go into my preferences here. So Live Preferences. And I want to point out that we can also use analog heat simply as an audio interface. Right now I'm actually using a different interface, but if we look here, we can see that my analog heat is called Thav Heat. So we have analog heat available as an input device as well as an output device. Now I bring this up because I'm using a separate interface since I'm recording and everything, but I can still use analog heat to process audio within my DAW while I'm using a separate interface. So it's nice to be able to get the goodness of analog heat and not sacrifice another interface that may have more inputs or outputs, mic preamps, etc. So with that established, let me close this. And the last thing that I'll point out is, again, once you have Overbridge and everything installed properly, when you go into your plugins, you'll see that you have a plugin called Analog Heat. And I've dropped the Analog Heat VST down here on my drum track. And if we hit the wrench, here we can see the GUI of the Analog Heat VST. So all the parameters that are available inside of Heat are available here. And there's actually a couple that aren't available within Heat that we can access within this GUI. So we're going to go over that in the following course. And we'll end up with some nice, warm, fat sounds.